to show you guys how to play the Philly way. I played on a couple Philly records. Some of your artists like Music Soul Child, Floetry, Vivian Green, Glenn Lewis. Here's how we would do things. Almost churchy like, and a lot of us came from church. It's church changes. But that's a lot of Philly neo soul for real. You just gotta have a little bit of a, And I study bass players. It's Phil. So I'm just laying the foundation, build a vibe. All right, that's all I got for there, right? So here we go, y'all. Like that. This would be the verse. So the idea there is like one of my good friends, Keith Pelzer, producer extraordinary. He produced Jill Scott, Music Soul Child. I mean, everybody that came out of Philly and more. I can't even get through his catalog. But Keith Pelzer was one of my mentors, one of my big brothers, and an amazing producer. Well, it so happened that he was also an organist at church. His father was a pastor. And what would happen would be, Jazzy Jeff created a studio production situation called Touch of Jazz. And he had 6 producers, and they were paired off. You had Keith and Darren, you had Ivan and Carvin, and you had Dre and Vidal. And you guys know their records. You've heard their records before. In fact, I'll put them on the screen. You'll see some of the records and the people they produced and worked with. Well, I've played on some of those sessions with some of the, I was the keyboard player, session player, but they were the producers. Well, Keith, I'll never forget, he told me the story about him being in church. And now all of us, for the most part, came from church. I think except for maybe 2 of the guys in the band, 2 of the guys that were the producers. But I think everybody else, for the most part, I know Dre Vidal played drums in church. I know Keith. Keith was an organist at his father's church. But some of the other guys came from the hip hop background. But for those who came up in church, we get our ideas during service in a crazy flow. So Keith was telling me one time in a service, he was just backing his father up playing, and he heard the chords to which song would He Loves Me by Jill Scott. He came up with that just as talking music during service. So after he left service, he went back to the studio and cut He Loves Me. And y'all know how big of a hit that is with Jill Scott from her first album. So when you hear songs like Getting in the Way of What I'm Feeling, when you hear Music Soul Child's dum 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 dum, those are church changes, church chords. So a lot of the Philly neo soul market really was influenced a lot by church. The thing is, whereas in church, say you would do the changes that I just played right here. Like you hear how full those are. Well, when I got with those guys, I met some of the producers at church. They invited me to come down to the studio, and my world was blown when I got into that world. When I started to see, that was my year. I was about 18, 19 around the time I started hanging around those studios. Well, they would hear me play all of these different chords and changes. But they were like, dude, you don't need all of those notes. You're playing too many notes. One of the secrets of Philly neo soul is you take things that we do that's really deep, but you simplify. So if you're playing in 10 chords, how can you do that in less? And so I learned that when I got around James Poyser. Oh man, another one of he's Philly's legend, one of the greatest, I believe, of our era in the neo soul field. You see him every night with The Roots with Jimmy Fallon. Bald-headed guy. That's one of my mentors. Well, I would notice the same thing with him. He also plays at his father's church. Well, you hear me doing a lot of that type of stuff. Those are two finger notes. So I'm playing the same chords, but not as deep. And that's what it is, more about your feeling than about laying all the chords out. You leave space because then you may have other elements like guitar come in the room. I gotta leave room for organ. I gotta leave room for maybe one of the things we also did in Philly deal. So this is a secret I'm gonna give away. Is you'll layer a Rhodes and then do percussive action with a Wurlitzer, and I'll show y'all that in an example later. But it's a lot of that. It's like. And some delays. And Ty Tribbett was big for that. He taught me that a lot. In fact, James Poyser produced Ty Tribbett's first and second album, the Life and Victory. When we did the Life, we came in the studio, you notice the Life record is very, very much it's like a neo soul gospel record. Well, when we came into James Poyser's camp, we were doing a lot, and James was like, nah, simplify it, make it real simple. Break it down, make it simple. It don't have to be so over the top, so heavy. Gospel music is known for really being big on chords, heavy on those changes and progressions. But he wanted to really get the feel and the heart out. And so we did, like when you did songs like I'm really not doing a lot. And some people, it's funny because I used to know some younger musicians who didn't feel like, dang, man, as a keyboard player, you're really not playing a lot. That's kind of whack. I'm like, you crazy. Music is not always all of this. It's not all of that. Sometimes you gotta, James Brown, if you saw the movie Get On Up, when he went to his band and he went to each instrument, he said, what's this? It's like, it's a guitar. He said, no, it's a drum. And he went to the keyboard. He said, what instrument is this? He said, it's a keyboard. He said, no, it's a drum. Every instrument was a drum because he knew what kind of sound he was going for. He wanted people to dance. He wanted people to feel what he was doing. And so you don't feel nothing. Drums are one of the most, it moves people. And so when I approach the keyboard from a drum perspective, it provides, you know what I mean? That's some of my. Go back and go listen to some D'Angelo records. If you listen to the D'Angelo Voodoo album, you'll hear, even though D'Angelo's a keyboard player, he plays guitar, keyboard, he plays multiple instruments. When you listen to the keys on his record, it's such a genius. The way they do the keys on that record is so incredible because they don't overplay. Then it's neo soul, but you're hearing guitar, you're hearing percussion, you're hearing a lot of different movements, and keys may be like, he may be doing something like. That don't require a lot, and it's not a lot of chords, but there is a mystery to a secret to it. It's much simpler than most people think it is. I've heard and saw people, try to interpret neo soul, and I'm like, you're too heavy on the chords. You're not even really. And then there are some songs every once in a while you do get that do require a little bit more weight. Like for instance, my sisters Floetry, Natalie and Marsha, one of their songs, it's a beautiful ballad they have it's called "Say Yes." You know what I mean? Like you get to stretch on that. I love playing that song. So you'll get your songs every once in a while. It depends on the song, but that's one of the tips. I'm gonna keep doing some videos on how to play the Philly way, give you guys some more tips, and maybe pull up some records and things that I've been able to be a part of to show you what I mean. And this is just Paris Bowen signing off for Colors, how to play the Philly way. Much love to y'all. Peace.